Hi guys, and welcome to a new episode. A very long and haven't done this in a year or more episode on Roxanne's thoughts. Yay! Yay! For today, our topic is books. Specifically, my favorite series of all time. We're going to start with my number one. Has been number one since I could read, which is Alice in Wonderland. There are two books, if you did not know. So technically, it is a series. This is the second one. The first one is Alice in Wonderland, and this is the second one, Alice in Wonderland Through the Looking Glass. I love this book series with all my heart. Everything about this book series, the way it's written, the story, everything, chef's kiss. I read it every now and then, and this is also a video on like the books I've reread, because I don't really reread books unless they're like really good. For example, this. So this is my number one. And then the rest is like, they're all the same rank. This is number one. And then tied with for my two favorite books after Alice in Wonderland are these two books. The Selection, which has been my number one in like the modern books. It has been my number one for years. It's so good. I'm pretty sure you've seen so many videos about, if you watch BookTube or like book TikTok, where I don't have TikTok, so I don't know. But they talked about this book and they said how great it is. It's just an easy read it is, and it's everything and above. And then this book series came into my life. The Cruel Prince. Oh my! It's like my guilty pleasure, but at the same time, I just read it whenever I can. For like a year or two, I was separated from it, and I was like actually craving to read this book, which is so weird to say, but yeah. This book is Howl's Moving Castle. For people who don't know, this is the book that created my favorite animated movie of all time, which is Howl's Moving Castle, obviously. But it's a book series. I have read number 3, but I haven't read number 2 because it was a little bit off idea, but I will read it and buy it soon, one of these days. I love this book. It's like pretty different from the movie. They're both so good. I love this book so much. It's amazeballs. I don't know, the plot, when you read it, okay, so there's spoiler alert. When you see in Howl's Moving Castle, technically Sophie has 2 sisters, not just one, and there's a huge plot around that. It's part of the main plot, and there's other plots that are really important in this. So yeah, that weren't portrayed in the movie, but they're damn good. I have a few more books to talk about, but for now, you will see a change of scenery probably, because those other books are in the beach house, and I'm currently in my mom's village house, so I don't got them here. But for a sneak peek into the next clips, they are The Hunger Games, The Maze Runner, and there's another one. We'll see it, and there's my mystery, and we'll see it in the next clip. Bye. I highly recommend these books. I live and swear by these books. Like, look how old my books look like. But yeah, they got old, but it's alright. So yeah, see you in the next clips. Hi guys. Remember how I said in the last clip that I was going to have the physical books? Well, I did go to the beach house, but I didn't have time to film there. So I'm just going to put like virtual images of these books
the next following favorite books of mine. And as you can tell, I'm still a bit sick. I mean, you haven't known yet, but in my monthly vlog for July, I will mention that I am sick. But yes, so I'm still sick, still dealing with it. But yes, that's off topic. Let's get back to the books. So, like I said in the first video, first part, also I'm wearing the same shirt to continuity, but obviously there's bangs now, so not really that much. So the first book that I want to talk about in this favorites, like I mentioned before, is The Hunger Games. It's a trilogy. If you haven't heard of this book series, I don't know where you've been. It's probably one of the best sci-fi series I've read in a while. I first read it when I was like, when it first came out, to be honest. When the first movie came out, I was like, wait, I have to read the book first. And then I was like, so I read the book first and then I watched the movie and I was like, hey, there's missing things. And like every person that reads books and that these books have movie adaptations of. But I really enjoyed the movie franchise just as much as I enjoyed the book series. The dynamic in the book is so much more dark, I find, compared to in the series. And you really, but then like there's literal descriptions of how the people are feeling compared to as in the books, but compared to as in the movie. But it is a great series if you are into sci-fi and dystopian worlds. That is literally my favorite thing to read about. So you can tell, you can understand why it is in my favorite books. So if you don't know about the plot, it's this girl named Katniss Everdeen who they live in a dystopic world. They're ranked by category of labor, and she's in District 12, and they specialize in mining and all that. And there's like every year since these factions of town, of categories of people was created. Also the categories depend of like your wealth, the wealth of the area. Okay, and so there's this thing called the Hunger Games where two candidates from each boy and girl district is selected to fight to kill each other for the fun of the capital. She volunteers for her sister because her sister gets called out, and then the plot goes on from there. Another sci-fi dystopia series is The Maze Runner, and God knows I love this series, the book series. The movies are good, a little bit disappointing because there's so many really cool aspects that are completely neglected in the movies. Like the telepathy, like that's super important because there's like 4 characters that have it, and they're like, you know who they are if you've read the books. I don't know how you haven't heard about these books because they're really public. And then, so yeah, and this story is about this dystopic world. This kid gets sent into a cage into this place, and they have to fight off evil people, and they discover that, and I'm not mentioning names, I'm really bad at remembering names, so if you want me to mention the names of the characters, not gonna happen often. Sorry about that. Books continue on this trope where they're trying to save humanity from this deadly disease. That's it. I mean, that's not it, but like there's other things that happen. But like the short version is they're saving the world from a disease. Kids are saving the world from a disease that makes you look like a zombie. You're not a zombie apparently. The next one is called The Winter's Promise. This I understand if you don't know because it's technically a French book that's been translated into English, obviously. I first started reading it in English because the cover is so pretty. Then my sister was like, wait, Roxanne, this is a French book. You should be reading in French since you can read and your second language is French. Like, it's weird if you didn't read it in French. So I read it in French, and French is a very descriptive, French is, the French version is very good, But I think I like the way the translator had written the first book. I love this series, love it. But I wish that the elements that the translator was portraying through their words was portrayed as well as it was portrayed in the French books. Because I know the author it's completely completely different languages, but there are similarities, and then there's just, and also I think it's because I have a preference for English. I always have and always will. Great plot. It's world building, extremely concentrated on the world building. Story about this girl that gets engaged to another man in another world. Follows that trope. It's not at all concentrated on the romance. If you guys are into romance books, it's more concentrated on finding the answer to whatever the people in the book are looking for, and then that's that. And then we have an Italian book series that I read as a kid, but I read it in French because I don't know what the Italian title is, sadly, but in French it's called Les Chroniques du Monde Émergé. So it's the chronicles of the emerged world, if we're translating it literally. And it's about this girl who is trying to, it's been a while since I read it, but I'll put like a synopsis here if ever you're interested. And it's great. It's pure fantasy, and I love myself some fantasy. I love fantasy and sci-fi are my favorite genres. I don't really read out of that. Sometimes I do, but if I do, it's more in audiobook versions because I find that I'd rather invest my time more in a fantasy, because even for me, books is like a fantastic thing, the physical version. And I do enjoy other genres. Sci-fi and fantasy are like my number one thing. And then I have my last book recommendation or / favorite book. And my last favorite book is not a series, it's an individual book. It is Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen. Yeah, I wanted to throw 2 classical books in this because classical books are great. Victorian era in terms of novels and authors. Oh my god. Such great stories. Even though there's some that are really boring, like Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. One of the Bronte sisters. Sorry, I've said that really loudly. But Jane Austen, I've read 3 books I think of hers. I've read Pride and Prejudice. God knows I love that book. Northanger Abbey. Maybe Persuasion, but no, I didn't read it. No, I only read 2. But I've wanted to read Persuasion, but at the same time I didn't want to because they're long. But yes, Northanger Abbey is my favorite Jane Austen book. Not many people's favorite book of Jane Austen is Northanger Abbey. I don't know, it's just the satire of it, because it's kind of like mocking the Gothic era. Just the story, the trope is really good. That's all I have to say about the book. I love the characters, and then but the thing is, I read it after watching the TV movie version of it, which is absolutely fantastic. That's where my love for Felicity Jones came. I love her. Those are my favorite books. There are plenty more that I highly recommend. Dune series is not bad. I mean, I've only read the first one, but honestly, in my opinion, the Dune series, they could have just stayed at one book because the first book is just very good. I would also recommend the 3 Dark Crowns series, this book. I hope you enjoyed the second part. Sadly, I couldn't get the books here, like in person. I hope you enjoyed. I know this is not everyone's cup of tea talking about books, but I love books. I'll see you, my booktubes, my Roxanne thoughts, again next month. Bye!